definitely sounds like, like you're a power user. If you know what an explode recipe is, then I think that's
explode recipe.
Yeah, we'll touch on that for sure. But first off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you do for work, and what you do for fun?
Sure. I live on Vancouver Island, BC, in Duncan, actually, specifically. Love it here. And I am a registered nurse. So I work in a chemotherapy department at our local hospital, which I love. And then about 3 years ago, I got my personal training certification, precision nutrition, coaching certification, and all of that stuff. And a couple more little certifications because I just am a nerd. And so I went down the path of trying to do some online coaching and did that a little bit on the side. I'm in a bit of a hiatus from that right now. It never kind of took off and went anywhere, of course, because I still have a job. So it was a bit hard to do both, but I love my nursing. I have 2 kids. I have a husband of 24 and a bit years. So yeah, that's what we like to bike and hike and run and do. I like to my primary thing is weightlifting. And so I do that mostly, but yeah.
That's amazing. Just basically living like the BC life. You have very nice trap muscles. I mean, that's really all I can see. So you can they look great. It's so cool that you nerded out as well on just getting your personal training designation. I actually did the exact same thing, not to train, but just to have more knowledge of those things so it could hopefully improve my own health. And I just think it's so interesting.
I know I have loved it. Like I've been working out for a long time in the nutrition, kind of tracking nutrition and things like that for a long time. And people would ask me for help and I would be like, well, I can't help you. Like I could help you, but I don't have any like backing to help you. And so I just wanted to be able to have the proper backing and the proper knowledge to be able to help people. So yeah, it was fun.
What is it like working with people undergoing chemo all the time? That sounds like you say you love it, but that must be a very challenging job.
I love it. I've worked in a few other areas of nursing, and the cancer patients are the most amazing patients you will ever meet. They're so thankful for everything you do for them. They're so positive, even like in the literal worst time of their life. They're so positive, and they just feel like they're on a fight, right? So they're totally engaged in their care, and they're so thankful for everything. Like literally yesterday, people are like, we wouldn't even be here without you guys. And I'm like, but it's you guys who are like fighting the fight. So it's such an honor for me to be in that position, to be able to help them in like the struggle of their lives. Like it truly is such an honor, which is why like when I was dabbling in the online training space and trying to decide, like, would I actually do that? Would I leave nursing to do that? I came to the realization that like, no, I won't be doing that. So that's why I kind of have laid that whole training piece aside. But yeah, dealing with any area of nursing is difficult. There are really difficult times when your cancer patients decline and then eventually pass away. That can be really hard, and watching that happen. But mostly it's so fulfilling just to have a role of any kind in someone's journey, and them being so thankful is just like so fulfilling. So yeah, I really love it.
I definitely wouldn't say that what we're doing is on the same level as that, because you are helping people in the fight against their lives. But I'm so motivated and humbled when people share their stories. Like a lot of people are using Cronometer, to tube feed their children and that kind of thing. Like, and there's lots of clinical applications that people use it for epilepsy to manage seizures, or like a lot of people do use to follow ketogenic diets for cancer. Yeah. And it's really moving to see people making improvements for their health and getting to like have a front row seat to that. I think would be incredibly rewarding. Tough, obviously, but good on you. That's amazing work. Yeah. You're doing amazing work.
Oh, thank you.
Back to Cronometer. Sure. What made you start looking for a nutrition tracking app, and how did you land on Cronometer? I know that you said that you've used a couple different ones before. how did you find us?
I think that my sister first mentioned you guys like a few years ago. And then I was using my Fitness Pal primarily. Well, I had been using my Macros Plus for a long time. And then when I started training clients, it wasn't overly like it wasn't super helpful in that way. And then the training app I was using integrated with my Fitness Pal and blah, blah, blah. So I kind of switched over to that, but I didn't love it. And then last year when my Fitness Pal started talking about making their barcode scanning part of their premium app and my clients would have had to, pay, I was like, okay, that is ridiculous. And in the process of that, looking at different training apps too. And so I'd heard of Cronometer and my sister really raved about it. And then I was like, I heard you guys were in Revelstoke, actually. I was like Googling and I was like, man, this is a BC company. This is so cool. Okay, definitely want to try it. And so I always upgrade my tracking apps because I have no tolerance for like the silly little things that can happen in a free version. I'm like, no, I need all the aspects of everything. I just ain't all that way. So right away I went to the gold version and was just like, and I wanted to suss it out for my clients as well. And I just totally loved it and started using it from that point on. And I just found it super easy in like virtually every capacity. Was super easy. And then started encouraging my clients to try it as well. And some of them did. And some of them were just like, you know what, I'm really comfy with my Fitness Pal and I've used the free version and it's totally fine. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I also like really loved how there was the health markers right in there. You didn't have to dig into like your info page or whatever to really find where your vitamins and minerals were. Or I loved how Cronometer had like your bone health and your women's health. And it was just like categorized that way. I was like, that is amazing. And so that's something I pay attention to and I think is really important, especially at my age. So yeah, that was a real draw for me for sure.
I remember when we started the nutrition scores of what you're referring to, our nutrition scientist, she's on mat leave right now, but when she was doing the scores, I was like, these are going to change people's lives because it's just like at a glance score. You know what I mean? Like most people wouldn't necessarily know the nutrients that go into bone health without doing a little bit of research.
Yeah.
And honestly, I look at my nutrition scores all the time for those things to see like where I'm at with electrolytes on days that I'm working out a lot. And like, it's just so handy to have it in information that's readily digestible, I guess. And there is so much data within the app and that can be overwhelming. Obviously, you know probably more than like the average user just in terms of nutrition, but I think it helps it be less overwhelming.
Yeah, I just love the percentage score. Like it's not like, it doesn't need any more, like for most people, like you said, it's going to be too overwhelming to dig into it any deeper than that. But like if like if I'm 80% above on my bone health, say, is something that I pay close attention to, I'm like, yay, okay, that's a win. And then try and figure out what I've eaten that has contributed to that. And that's super helpful too.
That's awesome. That's how I hope everyone uses the app. Like in your video that you sent us, you mentioned that you'd been in like a caloric deficit. Were you in an intentional caloric deficit? Were you?
Yeah. For like, well, I just kind of fell into this trap of that a lot of women do actually, and even women that I've coached of just like the perpetual chase of weight loss and fat loss and not really realizing. And I think it's more out there in this day and age because of social media, but not really having a good grasp on like nutrition periodization and having to be in a fat loss period for like a pretty specific amount of time and then move out of that. Like the leaner that you are, you need more time and maintenance and all of those things and not having that knowledge. So I spent years actually in an intentional deficit, just trying to kind of get as lean as I wanted to be, as lean as I could. And then coupled with just like life stress of my kids leaving home, like my daughter left home and moved to Australia. And that was super, super stressful. and just sad. I mean, it wasn't stressful in the sense, I don't know, it was just sad emotional stress, right? And change and transition. And so that's when I call it my like grief diversion of like doing all my courses and all those things. But part of the way that I dealt with that grief was like a little bit of over exercising and then a little bit more control over my nutrition, just because it was like, well, this is something that I can control, right? And it's something that I love to do. So it didn't really feel like I was going overboard in any way. But then it just started like I had nagging injuries. I was feeling really crappy. I was like really crabby, and I didn't have a period. And so all of these things were kind of like red flags. And then when I started learning more about reverse dieting and hormone health and all those things, I was like, I think I need to do something differently. But every time I tried to raise my calories, I would go backwards, because like I would go back, because as soon as the scale started going up, I was like, well, I'm not comfortable with that. And in all honesty, then I would get my period back and I'd be like, nope, I hate this. So then I was like, well, let's just like, I know how to take care of that, which is so bad. Anyway, long story short, I did end up hiring a coach who put me through a reverse diet and really helped me like deal with just a little bit of the fear of weight gain and the fear of the scale going up. And I gained a little bit more than what I wanted to. And that was a good thing over the course of probably a year. And then I wasn't in a calorie deficit for probably like, I was just at maintenance for probably a good 10 months. And it was just like, wow, this is what it feels like to actually feel good and to like enjoy life and to not be so restricted and to like be able to eat out with my family and not be like, oh my gosh, I can't have this or that. So it really changed my conception of nutrition and what it looks like long term. And so now I definitely have more of an idea of like nutrition periodization and like entering those certain phases and being more intentional with it. So that was a long answer. I'm sorry, but
it honestly speaks to me exactly, because I think that my journey has pretty much mirrored your own as well. So I think that it's a ton of women go through that as well. Yeah. I remember like not letting myself eat more than 1,200 calories a day. Like I would food journal in high school with a pen and paper, and I would try to eat somewhere between like 800 to 1,000 calories. Wow. And I also hired a coach, and now like I'm at maintenance. My weight is pretty stable. And I'm eating like 2,300 calories a day. Amazing. And if you had told me, when I was a teenager that I'd be able to eat that and feel satisfied, and not gain weight, I'd be like, no, like you're crazy. But I think that Cronometer has been really good for me that way, because it did let me play with the numbers. Like it's been a slow process. I started at like 16 and then like bumped my way up, but I'm also very active as well. So yeah, your story, I mean, I feel like you were just talking about my own life, but I also hope that other women get to go on the journey that we got to, and actually get to know what it feels like to feel like vital. Like that's honestly how I feel. I feel like I'm always brimming with energy, and I definitely did not feel that way.
Oh, absolutely. When I was being crappy and like looking back and just feeling like, I think my thyroid was off. Like looking back and knowing what now is like, and that's when I wasn't using Cronometer at that time. That was more like 2 years ago, but it would have been so helpful to be able to see some of those health markers and be able like, oh, okay, I really am low on my bone health. I really am low in like all of these things. And I think that's why it's so important to have, and so many people think that nutrition tracking is just like obsessive, and you're teaching your children bad habits or body image issues. And I'm like, yeah, but what if you look at it a different way? Instead of being like, oh, well, I'm tracking how much I'm eating because I can't eat too much. It's like, how about we change that and be like, can we be eating enough for our health? Like my daughter's 22 and she's like, I haven't talked to her too much about it yet, but she has said a couple things that makes me think like, okay, we need to have a conversation about this to just make sure that, like, you don't have to exercise to earn your food. Like, you don't have to, like, you could be tracking. And she's like, well, tracking would be unhealthy for me. I'm like, actually probably be healthier for you, because then you would know that you're getting the nutrients that your body needs and the energy that you require. And I think that's where Cronometer comes in so handy, is that you can have all that data right at your fingertips, including all your health markers too, which I think it needs to be the focus. Like, health definitely needs to be the focus. And I think we need to work at turning that around in the workout and nutrition realm.
Yeah, and I think that's part of our responsibility at Cronometer as a marketing team is I've heard the same things, that tracking nutrition can make you be obsessive. And I definitely have like been in that space in my life. I'd be like, oh, I have to go work out for like 7 hours a day so I can burn off what I was eating. But you can shut that off in the app too. You can shut off calories in the app and you can just focus on macros or any nutrients. But for me, yeah, it was like, it became more of like a holistic nutrition approach as opposed to calories. And I would have never got that if I didn't have the level of data. And I think that's where we really shine, obviously, is, we have all like very comprehensive and accurate data, and it really lets you shift the mindset from just like calories and caloric restriction or deficits to like hitting nutrient targets.
Yeah, overall health, absolutely.
Can you walk us through how you personally use the app? You mentioned that you're on Pro, so you're obviously very proficient with the web version.
I actually haven't used the web version a ton. Maybe I'm missing out by not. I'm not sure, but I just use it on my phone mostly.
Yeah, that's definitely, the web has different features, a couple different features, but we're trying to definitely streamline it. Your day-to-day process, are you logging everything all at once or every time you eat? What kind of structure do you have with actually physically tracking?
So I usually eat the same things relatively day to day. I have a few meals that I rotate between, and then my dinners are different, kind of. I'm really a creature of habit, and I eat the same types of things every day, which is all in my database. I have a bunch of custom meals so when I first track them, I'll like barcode scan something. Your database is amazing. So 9 times out of 10, it's in there, which is so helpful. I love that I could track by the gram, because I weigh all my dry stuff in grams. So that was like a previous app I was using. It's like, you can't track by the gram. Like, what is that? Like, so stupid. So like when I'm first entering something, I'll barcode scan it, measure it, enter it in. It becomes one of my favorites. I'll star it so that I know it's there. And then if it's something that I eat all the time, I'll save it as a group. Like, I'll save it as a meal. And I'll just, like, I have so many of these. It's like my usual pre-workout, my usual work breakfast, my usual weekend breakfast, my usual meatball lunch, like everything is my usual this or that. And then when I add it, I'll explode the recipe and then adjust the portions if I need to. So often I'll take like Sunday off of tracking. So on Monday, I just add my usual work breakfast, my usual this or that. And then day to day, I'm like, copy that, copy that, copy that, copy that. And then at dinner time is usually when I have to do a little bit more manual entering, because my dinners aren't always the same. So again, it's like using the barcode scanner, weighing, measuring my food, and then entering it all in that way. And yeah, and then whatever I have left over for calories or macros at the end of the day, I just kind of play with the numbers and make a snack, usually with like protein powder and cereal is my go-to. So I'll just input that stuff individually at the end of the day.
That's awesome. Where do you find you're living the most within the app? Because we obviously have so many different diary headers and stuff. Like, where are you paying attention to the most? Like the macros or?
So I'm sure I could have it set up better. the settings sometimes screw me up in terms of like what I'm going to see on the home screen compared to what I've put in the settings. So I'm not always sure what I'm going to see. So I live on the diary page, and then I usually have my protein, carbs, and fats like at the top there.
Yeah.
Just giving me like an idea of where I'm at for the day. And then, swipe right and you have your like consumed, burned, and remaining calories. And then I have my meals divided into six per day. I don't always eat 6 meals per day, but if it's a work day for me and then I have a bedtime snack, it's like 6 meals a day, which sounds crazy, but like it's what has worked for me. So then I just like have it set up and I just swipe to copy stuff. So that's where I live mostly. And then obviously when I add something, I'm in the food database. My custom foods, like I have quite a few in there.
Nice. That's impressive.
Yeah. So like I've made quite a few recipes, even to the point because I really wanted to see how my vitamins were impacting my health scores. And so I even bar scan my vitamins and like my evening and morning vitamin regimes and put them in there. Cause I was like, and so I have it saved as like my morning vitamins. And so I'll pop them in there. It's a part of like my pre-workout, my usual pre-workout. So things like that save me so much time. And when people say like, oh, I can't imagine tracking my nutrition, it takes so long, blah, blah, blah. And I always say like, okay, yeah, it's a skill. Like I get that there is a learning curve, but like once you get over that week to 2 week like hump of learning and getting most of the foods you normally eat in there, it's pretty efficient. Like especially Cronometer is super efficient at like copy, and you can adjust your amounts. And I've been super happy with that.
We actually have something that you're going to love, I think, coming down the pipe. Off the record, it's called recurring foods. So you'll actually be able to like schedule the same foods, because I feel like I'm talking to myself about you, because we use the app very similarly. Yeah. But I eat the same thing every breakfast, and I call it every damn day because I literally.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I'm like, I can just log that for the next 100 years. And
exactly. Yeah.
So it'll be helpful for you too, I think.
That's awesome.
Obviously, there is a learning curve with Cronometer. What advice would you give someone who's new to the app?
I think I would say to spend a few minutes like in the settings, kind of getting familiar with what you input, what that will look like on your diary, because a couple times I've been like, oh, I didn't realize that would pop up or whatever. I can't think of a specific example right now. But the user guides are super helpful too. And so if I've ever had a question, I've just gone in and been like, oh, where is this in the user guide? So I would just say like, go to the user guide on how to input your numbers or whatever. And it gives you the instructions. And then I would definitely say like, use the barcode scanner as much as you can for all your packaged stuff. And then for everything else, just search very specifically. And this is how I coach my clients too. Just search very specifically. Like if you need some broccoli, like broccoli cooked or broccoli raw, like just make sure you search very specifically, because you have it all in there. And then, weigh and measure and input it appropriately, and you're good to go pretty much. I also coached people to like have those frequent foods that they use and do them on repeat like that, just because I feel like it makes nutrition so much easier. It gets really overwhelming to track like a million foods if you're eating a million different things. So like, do kind of make recipes for the things that you eat all the time that are in your like week to week kind of meal rotation. Make recipes for them. And I love the recipe builder. It's super easy. So I've done that. And I would tell people to do the same. be like, those meals that you eat all the time, don't try and piece them together like one ingredient at a time. Like, make a recipe, take the time, it takes 10 minutes, just do it, get it in there, and then it's so much more efficient in the long run. And that's just kind of the person that I am. I'm like, I put the effort in the short term for the long-term benefit. And so that's how I would kind of tell people to do it. Like, put the effort in to get to know it really well and get all your meals and your foods in there off the bat. And then it makes it really efficient for you over time.
That's wonderful advice. You're so good at this. How has using Cronometer made an impact on your health? Obviously, we've touched on this a little bit, but have you achieved any very specific goals, or what's the biggest positive change that you've noticed in your health since you started with Cronometer?
Honestly, I think one of the biggest things for me overall in the last year to 2 years is just a more balanced focus on health over fat loss. And I just think Cronometers helps so much with that, because I can see the data in front of my face without having to like search through a million different variables. And so like, I am looking at that most days going like, oh, have I reached my targets? Like, am I 80% or above on all those health factors? And most of the time I am, which is, except I think there's a couple that I fall short on, but that has been something that has been like super helpful for me. So I didn't have a specific goal in that regard, but definitely wanting to like increase my bone health because of my genetics and knowing what my parents are like and all of those things. I'm like, okay, I want to really focus on that. So being able to actually see that I am meeting those targets is super helpful for me. Earlier in the year in January, I did program a deficit for myself, an intentional deficit after like a year of being at maintenance. And so I used Cronometer for that whole time, obviously. It was so easy just to like adjust my macros in the app, just like, okay, I'm just adjusting things, whatever. I do turn off the calories burned because, you know, it's not terribly accurate based on Apple Watches and wearables and whatnot. So that's not a factor, but like with the just seeing the balance of my macros and where I'm at, super easy to adjust them into a calorie deficit or maintenance or whatever. And then, yeah, I was able to kind of get some fat loss. Like I set a goal for myself of like a 5-month, well, more like a 4-month fat loss phase. And I met that goal and did well with that. And now I'm just in maintenance for the summer. And again, it's just like super easy to adjust your numbers again for a different season. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm just maintaining a little bit. So yeah.
That sounds lovely. It sounds like you've learned so much. It's very impressive. I love this part of my job. This is the best because I just get to actually hear people's real stories, like really connect with people, which I just find very, very impactful. What is the main reason that you'd recommend Cronometer over any other nutrition tracking app?
I love how easy it is. Like I said, once you get past that first week or two of inputting your info, I love how easy it is. I love how visually appealing it is. It's not busy. Some apps that I've used are just like, there's almost too much going on. And you're like, well, it's not super intuitive. I just love the features. I love the explode recipe. It's probably my favorite because it's so easy to adjust your portions. I love the recipe builder. I love that you can do it by serving or by gram. I absolutely love that. It's genius. Because both of the previous apps I used were very constricting that way with the recipe builders. What I haven't tried is importing a recipe. Because I don't often follow recipes. Like I'm really bad that way. Actually, my husband is like, what do you do? And I'm like, no, I just did this and that and whatever. It's funny. I would like to try to do the import recipe. I think that'd be fun. But yeah, and then just encourage them to, like we've said, like pay attention to your health markers, because that is what it's going to be for longevity and for just like feeling good over time. Like we can do these fat loss things and it's great. And I'm not discounting wanting to look good or aesthetics or anything like that, but it's like, that's not the be all and end all. And I think for longevity and for health, we need to look deeper than that. And I think Cronometer really helps you do that. And that's really one of the main reasons I would say, like, go with Cronometer, just like get your focus off just fat loss or just muscle gain, or, you know, for 99% of women, it's fat loss. So that's the realm I'm dealing with. And it would just be like, let's focus on these other factors too, and make sure you're eating healthily, because yeah, you can be in a fat loss or you can be in a deficit and eat Snickers bars all day long. But like, where are you at for your bone health, for your hormone health, for your metabolic health? Like, those things are way more important. So that's where I think Cronometer really stands out.
I think that we're moving into a phase of preventative medicine. And obviously you would know a lot more than I would since you're in the medical field, but just the way that people are working on doing things. And you yourself said it, you obviously have a history with like maybe like bone density or something in your family. So that's something that you pay attention to. I think that I'm really excited that we're entering this preventative place that people can know more about their health today to save them in like 20, 30 years, right? Like, it's very exciting to be on the forefront of that kind of thing, because when people are asking me why I'm tracking now, it's really just for later in life, really, like just to make sure I'm like laying a really solid foundation of my health for later, because you know, I do see elderly people decline maybe before they should. And I just want to be really active late into life. So
Yeah,
I think it's awesome. If you could describe your experience with Cronometer in one single word, I'll let you hyphenate it if you have to. what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness, that's such a good question. Well, it has been just really transformative for me in the way that I have looked at nutrition compared to how I did in the past. And I think Cronometer came at me at the right time where I was ready to see all these things. And so just the kind of all the pieces lined up so that it was like, okay, well, now I have this, and I have the knowledge that I have through the courses that I took, and I have the knowledge that I have through the coaching that I had, and it just kind of all came together and has been this transformative experience, because I don't look at health the same way anymore. I don't look at nutrition the same way anymore as when I was in this perpetual fat loss phase for years on end. And like, I'm really excited about that, because I'm like, I know that is going to serve me for longer. So that feels really transformational. And I mean, Cronometer has been a part of that. So that's really, really cool. So thank you guys.
Thank you. That's the best word. And I think that's, you hit the nail on the head. I love your story. I don't know if you noticed, were you using the app before November last year? You would have been, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice when we revamped the whole app and changed the logo and everything? Were you?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think?
I thought it was great. I was like, oh, this is great. This looks so good. Like it really shows that you guys are leveling up, because you are one of the smaller apps, but it really actually makes me proud to be like, oh, I use Cronometer. And not only that, they're from like my home area. And so it just makes me proud, because like, I don't know, as a user, and then as a fellow Canadian, and then just like, I feel like you guys must feel a lot of pressure in competing with like these big brands. And I'm like, you guys are leveling up really well, and it shows. And yeah, I was just reading this morning actually about some of the updates that there have been that maybe I missed, or some of the plans that there are. And I was like, wow, you guys are, you're doing a great job.
It's been so cool to be here. I've been here for 5.5 years. And when I started, there was like 6 of us in a tiny little office above the real estate agency here. And now, like, we just built a beautiful office. I think there's like 53 employees.
Oh my goodness. That's so cool.
And I think 36 of us are in BC. So to be, you know, along for the ride. And really, I've only been for like halfway, because it's been officially like an app since 2011 and I started in 2018. So I haven't really even been here that long, but in that time we've gone from 1.5 million users to we're almost at 8.
Amazing.
So I'm just like, and you touched on like MyFitnessPal, they did the barcode scan thing, and that's barcode gate, and we got a massive influx
Yeah.
from people that wanted a free barcode scanner. And we're never going to move free features behind paywalls. That's just not who we are or ever will be. And it's really, really cool to have all these people starting here, and everyone has different ideas, and it's been really cool. So
Yeah, that's awesome. We actually just drove through Revelstoke. We went to Calgary to visit our son, and we drove through Revelstoke, and I was like, I wonder if there's a Cronometer building. And I was
there is.
my eye out, but I couldn't see it up from where we were.
Next time you come through, you have to come in and see us, and we'll give you the
Sure.
office tour. We have like a very funky office. Most of the staff, they ski and snowboard, because our ski hill is like world renowned now. Actually, Emily used to do marketing for the ski hill. And so we have these light features in our office. They're called the goggleiers, and they're like
cool.
chandeliers that are actually made from goggle lenses.
Wow.
Like it's very hip and trendy. So
that's awesome.
it's pretty neat. But yeah, that's really all the questions that we had. You've been an absolute delight. Like, honestly, you're so well spoken, and you're obviously a power user, and I feel like you're a kindred spirit. So